Finance meeting to order. First up is County Clerk. We'll go with Brenda, County Auditor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My monthly report was emailed to the committee. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Brenda? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Treasurer's Office, Mr. Disker.
Add the figures. Big bag. Big bag.
Hey, first of all, I gave you a sales tax report, and I sent out a second sales tax report later in the week because we did get another check before this meeting, and I wanted everybody to have the most accurate information we had. So I sent you out a second one with some corrections on it. As you can see, the sales tax in August was a little better. We actually were in the plus compared to the previous months. We're still running behind from the year before. And depending on which chart you use and whose numbers you use, it varies. In cash alone, which we look at is strictly the cash we receive, we're down about a little over 4%, about 4.2%. But if you were to look at the state reports, the state looks at it a little differently. They start with the February numbers because they consider those January revenue, and they say the first quarter is February, March, and April, which is January, February, March cash. And if you look at their numbers, they're saying we're down about 1.5%. So it's a very, and that's because of that huge drop we took in January. It makes the difference in what my numbers are versus them. And then if you use the numbers that the county uses, which I call the Jim Marquette method, and probably if George was here, he'd know it. Tom remembers when it was changed, and Dan, and I think Jerry was here then when it was changed. Back in the early 90s, they changed the formula so that it began in March because they consider that the actual year that the money revenues were for. And if you look at it that way, county sales tax year to date is about 2.5% down from 14 to 15 as far as the budget's concerned. So it's different numbers depending on which months you're looking at. Occupancy was pretty comparable. It had an increase, slight increase of about $11,000. It's not very much. For year to date, we are down still about 1%. I gave you my revenues and expenses, cash flow, if anybody has any questions on them. If not, I do have one resolution that I'm asking for, and that is to approve awarding a bid for bond counsel services. That would be, I believe, for a 3-year term to the firm of Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood. This is based on a review of their bids and reviewing them with purchasing agent, myself, and the county attorney, and I think Dan probably looked at them as well. And they scored the best on them as far as cost. There were others that were comparable, but in actual terms of cost to the county, they were the best arrangements, so those are the ones that we want to offer to.
Moved by Mr. Politi, second by Mr. Merrihew and Mr. Moore. Discussion? Mr. Brunel.
Mike, just so I'm clear on what you're saying, these folks were the lowest bidder?
Yes. And bid in terms of, if you look at actual numbers and you took actual a number, and I believe the way Linda did it was she looked at some actual borrowings that we did over the past year, costed those out between firms, and they would have been, if they had been doing it, they would have been the lowest number. So yeah, they would be the lowest in terms of, they have a cost that's only based on the notes themselves or the bonds themselves, so much per thousand, where other firms have a fee, a flat fee, plus a fee for writing the resolution, and then a flat fee per thousand. This company has just a flat fee per thousand. And the numbers we used, or that Linda used, we looked at the bonds or bands that we had done in the past year, they would have run about $10,000 versus the next lowest bidder around $20,000. There's quite a savings.
Where are they based out of, Mike?
They're out in New York City. Yeah, I've checked their references. They do a lot of work with counties in the lower part of the state. They have an excellent reputation. They were as responsive, if not more responsive, than other companies that we've talked about in the past. That these counties have used both firms in particular, and they're very happy with them. They said that they have excellent rapport with them and excellent response time with them.
Okay, any further discussion on the resolution?
Just a quick question, so I understand it correctly, this is a totally new firm? This isn't a result of a consolidation? Or
No, this is a totally new firm.
So they must have been very competitive for you to switch?
Yeah, the firm that we've been using ever since I got here, and the firm that was here actually before I was here, we've used them for the last 20 years, didn't even bid this time.
Really?
Yeah. Surprised me a little bit, they didn't even put a bid in.
Did Art bid?
Yes.
Interesting.
They were about twice the cost of this firm.
Really?
Based on costing out what we would have done over the last year.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
The other thing in here, and I just want to quickly point out, is that in their bid, I want to mention that their comment from Hawkins Delafield is that all the foregoing would be subject to an all-inclusive annual cap for bond counsel services. The total all-inclusive maximum price for each of the next 3 years to be $5,000 a year. So on paper, it would have cost us $10,000 this year. Their cap is going to be $5,000 a year for the next 3 years. We've been spending as much as 3 times that per year. So I think we got a pretty good deal here.
Excellent. Any further discussion, Mr. Mayor?
That was going to be my question. If this, and apparently it is not, that was similar to other county contracts, would the towns be eligible under those provisions?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Because of the cap. I know the cap would be irrelevant. Maybe
because it's
Probably there are identified hourly rates or anything like that that are in there you could probably piggyback on. I don't know if Dan would be able to.
I think they're bond counsel rates per thousand, maybe, and that's a question, I don't know if that applies to professional services as well, but that'd be county attorney could answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Any questions for Mike? Just one quick one. Where are we on the auction? Are we still looking at fall, or?
We are looking, we may have to move the October 1st deadline. There was when we filed it, we may have to move it a week or two, but it's still going to be in October. The reason I'm saying that now is that at the last second, when we filed or I should say the county attorney filed it, there was a response from the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. An attorney for the board filed a motion, I guess that's what you'd call it, or a request for review for potentially objecting to the foreclosure. Why, I don't know, the Workers' Comp Board would choose that, but they did. And they were granted an extension till August 24th. So on the 25th, if there's nothing submitted, we can file for an order of foreclosure. And based on the past experience, the last 2 or 3 that we've done with Judge Meyer, they've been fairly quickly. But saying that, moving it into late August, October 1st is probably not going to be a good number. We're looking at now the 7th or the 21st. The 14th is taken up by another county, so it'll be done in October.
So the judge hasn't signed, John?
He has not signed because of that request from Workers' Comp. The extension was given to August 24th for an answer, to submit an answer.
Okay.
And he'll rule right after that.
Thank you. Anything else for Mr. Diskin? Thanks, Mike. County Manager.
Mr. Provancha's here.
Oh, hi, Joe. I didn't see you there. Mr. Provancha.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hopefully you've got everything emailed to you from my reports. It was a good month for the month of July. Our revenues for the clerk's office are basically where they should be, a little bit under, but we're hoping for a good August as well. DMV is down a little bit, but we are working hard on city work as well. The mortgage tax is up, as is the transfer tax. So the money coming directly to the county is good. I was approached the other day by a woman by the name of Bonnie Prince, who lives in Godfrey Dewey's house. Dewey's father gave us the Dewey Decimal System, and Dr. Dewey was part of the U.S. ski team manager and was chosen as the flag bearer for the 1928 games in Switzerland. But Dr. Dewey also did the Dewey shorthand, and so she gave me some books for our collection on the Dewey shorthand and some interesting articles that I will send out to you. Also, I want to thank the DPW, Brian and Roger and Jimmy Gilbo for helping us do some reorganization and build some bookshelves and tables for us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmer.
Chairman Farabee asked me to bring up a resolution authorizing payment to New York State Association of Counties as the host county for the 2015 Fall Conference to be held in Lake Placid. The previous year, we paid out $15,000. That would have to come out of contingent, and we would move it to a tourism account to pay for it. But if, typically that's done with the host counties when they host a NISAC event. They do contribute towards the cost of it. It provides a benefit somewhat to us in the sense that the registration fees would not be charged to anybody that registered under Essex County. Of course, the room and board and that thing still applies, and the meal tickets, but the registration fees would be covered under that $15,000. So if you wanted to move that, we'd need to move that out of contingent to authorize the host fee for the...
Someone move it for discussion. Mr. Grinnell, is there a second? Mr. Merrihew. I did speak with Bill regarding this on Friday, and we have done it in the past. I can't remember what year it was. But I certainly think the $15,000 cost to the county will be recouped tenfold. I mean, that's a lot of people you're bringing into this area. You got the sales tax collection, the bed tax, and so on. So I certainly support it. I think it's a big part of our whole tourism promotion, trying to promote this area. I think it's a good investment. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I also have a resolution under the energy performance contract. We've gone around with this. Both Dan Manning, myself, and Linda Wolf all feel like we need someone to oversee this process on an everyday basis as the company that was awarded the bid starts in on what's essentially called the second phase. We went to bid to get pricing from different companies that specialize in this under the NYSERDA program. C.J. Brown Energy was the low bid. They bid a cost of $16,568, which means that 50% of that cost is covered by NYSERDA, and the county pays the other 50%, which would roll into the overall energy project as we move forward. So if we're going to award this, we would be awarding a contract to C.J. Brown Energy for NYSERDA services under the energy performance contract at a cost of $8,289.
Someone move it for discussion? By Mr. Merrihew, second by Mr. Politi. Discussion. I guess under discussion, what are they doing?
They actually come in. Here's the problem here's the thing we went round and round with on these energy performance contracts. You're hiring this contractor to come in, and he's going to recommend you replace boilers, he's going to recommend you replace windows and doors, and contained within that recommendation process and the work that they're going to do is a payback over a 20-year period. one of the things that we struggled with and we kind of looked at in terms of the contract that would be in place between them as the energy company and us was how do we measure that as we move forward? In other words, how are we certain that what we're going to invest is actually going to come back to us over a 20-year period? This is what this C.J. Brown companies do. That's why NYSERDA encourages you when you take on one of these energy products or packages, they encourage you to hire an independent contractor who is not associated with the energy performance contract to assure that the money you are investing is actually returned over that 20-year period. That's the reason we ultimately decided that it made sense to have that third eye. It's like a clerk of the works, really. It's like hiring your own person who's going to assure that the work that these contractors are doing is going to be right. In other words, I don't want to be in a position of saying, if this energy company recommends the replacement of a boiler, and I find out that, okay, I'm supposed to save this amount of energy if I do that, but then it turns out that maybe these boilers don't have a very good lifespan and they don't last the 20 years that we're expecting. So that's what we're looking for, that kind of expertise that somebody's going to say, okay, they're recommending you replace this boiler and here's the return on it, and yes, this is a quality boiler and it should extend out to the life of the contract so that you will be assured that your investment pays off. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at, and that's just an example. But we, again, based upon discussions with NYSERDA, they really highly recommend that you hire somebody to oversee your energy contractor to make sure they're compliant.
Mr. Grinnell.
Dan, are you saying that there's actually liability held by these people if the performance doesn't occur that we expect from the products we use in the workmanship?
Well, I don't think there's any liability. In other words, if they recommend a boiler that turns out to be a bad one, I don't think so. I mean, they wouldn't be held responsible for that boiler. I mean, but they are going to make recommendations to you as to what they think is working within the industry. It's really, I don't know how better to explain it than simply a clerk of the works. We're essentially hiring a company that's going to act as a clerk of the works for these energy products or projects to make certain that what we're investing in pays off.
But there's no performance bonds involved, there's no...
Not for their work. Not for the work performed by... There would be bonds involved in the energy performances contract, but not for this C.J. Brown. C.J. Brown is going to be like a clerk of the works that oversees the project and says, okay, what they're proposing to you actually makes sense and probably will work, or maybe it won't work, but at least we would know that going forward.
But they have no skin in the game?
Other than a consultant, no. No, so, not at 8,000, no.
Mr. Marnell.
Yeah, Dan, do we buy fuel on the state contract or do we bid it?
We buy fuel state contract, yes.
We're at a 3-year commitment? 3 years?
We're not using Mega for fuel. We may be, yeah. I don't know. I'd have to ask Linda, but we do buy off the state contract.
Yeah. I was on it and then we went off it, and this year, or for next year, fuel oil and home heat, diesel fuel and home heating oil, number 2 fuel, dropped in half for next year.
Yeah.
The other thing is, there was another neighbor in town, they put in a pellet burner, and there was a big headline there saving, going to save $1,000 a year. And their life expectancy is 20 years. But the account person who has to put the pellets in it and take care of it, I mean, they don't operate themselves, so some things look good, but they cost you more money for you.
Randy.
Dan, is this money coming out of contingency?
No, what'll happen is once you actually develop the energy project, when you say, okay, here's where we are, you actually go to a bond, and the payment of that bond is, under the energy performance contract, is guaranteed to be paid off by the savings you would see within your yearly budget. So it will be a long-term bond once you decide the energy project itself.
Okay. And you didn't feel that anyone in-house could oversee this?
Well, we talked about that, and I just, again, Chris has got some good people, but the expertise, I think, is so varied that Linda and I and Dan Manning really wrestled with this, and after really speaking with some NYSERDA people, it just came down to you're probably making a more appropriate decision to have somebody who does this all the time oversee it.
Thank you.
This amount here, though,
That's the 50%. The total cost was 16. That 50% represents our share.
but that just would or would not come out of contingency.
No, this is going to come out of the project, the energy project.
So we've got money set up already.
Their project has been set up when you guys authorized the energy project.
Very good. Okay, any further discussion?
We have not, for the sake, we have not taken any money on that project yet because we have not committed any contracts yet.
Okay. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Opposed. Mr. Polides opposed. Mr. Gill is opposed. Mr. Polides. Oh, yeah. Who said opposed?
Mr. Brown.
Two. Only two? Okay. Carries.
I do have another.
Go ahead.
I need a resolution authorizing myself or the chairman to sign an agreement between the union and management for the implementation of the sheriff's bargaining unit. What occurred is that under PERB rules, under the Public Employers Relations Board, the employees within the Sheriff's Department asked for and was granted the right to hold a vote to form their own bargaining unit. It would still be under CSEA. They did hold that vote, and it did pass. So now it's down to us agreeing and signing off on it. Now, this agreement will still be, Dan needs to review this to some extent, but here's the process under PERB is that if for some reason this board said, no, we're not going to go along with it, we're not going to agree. So then the decision is going to go back to PERB. In PERB's only criteria for approval of a new bargaining unit is, did they do it properly? Did they notice right? Did they get the right amount of signatures for the vote? Did they agree to, and did the members approve based upon necessary votes the right to form their own union? Lacking any of that, if they included titles that were not supposed to be included, if they did something that was wrong, then PERB would simply go back and do it over. But from our point of view, from management's point of view, we don't have a lot of recourse. I don't see any point in disputing it myself. If they want to have a separate bargaining unit, that's fine. We'll bargain with 2 units. It's not uncommon. Sheriff's departments are typically separate units in most places, and I guess they feel like they can get a better deal. We'll see. We will be in the process of bargaining with what is essentially 2 units, but that's okay. Just means I'll be bargaining with 1 smaller unit as opposed to 1 large unit.
The entire membership voted to allow this?
It doesn't have to be the entire membership. It's only those titles which are identified as being wanting to be separate. In this case, the unit shall consist of deputy sheriffs, deputy sheriff sergeants, deputy sheriff lieutenants, deputy sheriff civil officers, correction officers, correction corporals, correction sergeants, correction lieutenants.
So they petitioned PERB there's no vote among the membership, because right now we're one bargaining unit, they're all CSEA.
No, any unit that can be separated. PERB has certain rules about which units can be separated. You couldn't take a sheriff's unit and include clerical people from some other unit. It has to be a separate unit.
Okay, that leads me to my next question. Are clerical people part of this?
No.
In the sheriff's department, or are we talking just deputies and COs?
Just exactly what I defined to you. Just deputies, deputy sheriffs, lieutenants, corporals, sergeants, and lieutenants. All other people working for the sheriff's department that are currently in the main CSEA unit will stay in the main CSEA unit. Does not include them. This would be just for those deputies and sheriffs.
So if social services decided we want to have our own bargaining unit, can that happen?
No, because of those, see, again, you got to get back to distinct titles.
Department, I mean.
They already are their own bargaining unit. In other words, the current makeup of our employees could not be subdivided much more than two units anyways. Now, if you had, let's go back a couple of years, if you had the Horse 9, they could have voted to be a separate unit because they're separate and distinct from everybody else. But when you got titles that cross over in different departments, that becomes a unit. And that's why the main unit is still all of the employees that are in there now. This unit would just be those deputies and sheriffs.
Which will fall under the umbrella of the CSEA.
It's still a CSEA.
They don't have their own president, they don't have...
They will.
So essentially, they have become a separate entity for bargaining with this body.
That's right. They become a local, they become a second local. We already have one local, which was the whole unit. They're now breaking down into everybody else in the sheriffs. And the sheriff's people would become a second local unit.
So theoretically, if a town has a police department, then the police department probably would fall under that same category.
They could petition to PERB to do that, but that's entirely up to them. Management can't be involved in the process, nor can they suggest or influence. It's entirely a vote of the members of that unit. What constitutes that unit? Again, I don't have an objection one way or another to this. I got to negotiate anyways.
I don't object to it. I certainly think it's going to make your job much more difficult than our job, just because of you know how things are with the workforce. Somebody's getting a little more than somebody else, and that creates friction. Toby?
Tommy, this is akin to my challenging your petitions, and I'm thinking about it, but it's not a good idea. They can pretty much do what they want.
I figured you would challenge it. Northell was notorious for that, but anyway.
I'm headed over there next.
Okay, so we need a resolution.
You're just going to authorize either the chairman or myself to sign off on that. Does anybody move that?
No.
Okay, someone want to move that? Moved by Mr. Grinnell, is there a second? Mr. Moore, further discussion. Mr. Blake.
What happens if it's not signed off on?
It goes back to PERB, and PERB will say, okay, did they do it correctly? If they did it correctly, sorry, Essex County, you lose your objection, and they're a bargaining unit, you have to bargain with them.
So what?
Well, I don't see the advantage to doing it. I mean,
I sent out a message.
I guess. I don't know what the message is, but...
I mean, we have one bargaining unit here now, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you want to do is you want to have a second bargaining unit strictly of the people that wear uniforms in the county.
I don't.
I don't either, and that's why I'm going in this direction.
Again, if I thought that they had done something incorrectly under the process, then I would say to you, okay, no, they didn't do it right. They didn't notice right. They didn't have a right vote. There wasn't enough people that voted. They're trying to include people that should not be in there. Then I would say to you, don't agree to it, but it serves you no real good purpose other than sending a message that you don't like it. You're going to have to negotiate with them at some point anyways. Because PERB's going to, I'm telling you, I've been in this business a long time, and PERB is going to tell you they did it right, and that's a bargaining unit, and you have to negotiate with them.
Let me ask a question in regards to the upper brass, your lieutenants, your sergeants, and I don't know what else we have over there. Why are they part of the bargaining unit? Why would they not be management confidential? Why
They are bargaining units now.
But why do we, but shouldn't, I mean, this might be an opportunity where they're not in the bargaining unit, because I really believe they fall in more of the category of management confidential employees.
Here's the process to that. Everybody, when they get hired at the county, if it's a new position, it's assumed in the bargaining unit. You have to petition PERB to remove any title from the bargaining unit. So we have done that over the course of the history. You'll see at every union agreement, you see a section of it that says these are not within the bargaining unit. And PERB has agreed to that. So if you wanted the lieutenants or those positions out, you would have to petition PERB asking that they be removed from the bargaining unit. You would have to give some pretty valid reasons, and then PERB would rule whether they are in or out. The likelihood is they're going to rule them in because there's no valid reason for them to be out. Now, doesn't mean you can't do that. I'm just saying.
No, I understand, but I'm saying just, but in that same sense, you could do the same for many employees out here that are in management confidential that,
we have, if they're in management,
bargaining units.
we have done that with a number of positions. We actually,
All right, we don't need.
we can go through a whole series of those, but they did not get approved.
Further discussion? Mr.
Just
Mary.
one other for Mr. Palmer. Could the DPW constitute an individual bargaining down the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, potentially they could. They would probably be in the same boat, though. Their clerk positions and those, any crossover titles would be within the same unit. The highway titles might be a bargaining unit. That would be an interesting one, I'm not sure. But, yeah.
Mr. Marnell?
Not on this subject, I wanted to...
Okay, let's vote on this resolution that's on the floor. Do you want to read the resolution?
Daniel's it.
Yeah,
Authorizing the county manager.
It's a resolution authorizing an agreement between the County of Essex and the Sheriffs of Essex County Civil Service Employees Association Local 1000, Unit 816. Authorizing the formation of the Essex County Sheriff's Bargaining Unit.
All in favor? Aye. All carried. Anything else?
No, I'm good for now.
Yeah, everybody received your letter that you sent out to department heads. Just one quick question on the tax cap before Charlie comes up. What's the rate of inflation this year?
0.73.
So that's what, so it's not 2%, the cap is...
No, the cap is 0.73. That's the rate of inflation. The way the tax cap law was written, it specifically said that the cap was either going to be 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. So therefore, the rate of inflation was set at 0.73. That's your cap for 2016.
0.7.
That's right.
Bill?
Yes, we spoke about that at length not too long ago. I talked to Mr. Palmer, and I've talked with our town attorney. Tri-County Railway is moving forward with a resolution. We have a first draft. I'm going to be forwarding that to Mr. Palmer this week. I really feel it is to everyone's best interest to take a position on this, because it is not workable in the Adirondack Park.
You're right. Totally impossible. Charlie?
No, we had Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Could we back up to that energy consultant just a minute, because I was confused? Do you plan to hire somebody full-time, or is it for needed? Because this whole process is going to be stretched out for months or maybe even years.
Yeah, it's his responsibility. The contract is, it's not a full-time person or anything. They're hired to oversee the process. I think Linda probably has that defined within the contract. I'll get more information for you on that. But it's, again, it's just their job is to oversee the process up until we go to the once the work is done.
Because I was thinking, the energy audit said, for instance, this boiler should be changed, and they're going to save X number of dollars. But you could have an engineering firm, electrical engineer, as each job come up, where you'd have no ties to them, would be an employee. It'd be a specialist, and you have an engineer, electrical engineer, engineering firm, and you could get a report from them to check what the energy audit said, without having to have...
You could. I don't know how much more expensive that would be. I don't know if it would be or wouldn't be more expensive. I don't know. If you had to hire somebody to come in to review each part of the proposal, I don't know what that would end up being.
But then you would have a guarantee though, right?
Right.
So you made it? No.
Yep.
Okay. Charlie?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I sent my budget ahead of time. We also are working on school tax rolls and bills. We've sent out all the totals to the schools with the exception of 2 towns that have an adjourned meeting for their Board of Assessment review, but we're going to be very busy in the next 2 weeks working on school tax rolls and bills for all the schools.
Any questions for Charlie, for real property? No, thank you. Anything further to come before this committee? If not, we can...
Just a reminder that the first session of contract negotiations is scheduled for 11:30 with the negotiation team at the SEA.